Right before I went to Hawaii, before I got in the peyote church, I went to a Vipassana when I was 20. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done, still to this day, one of the hardest things I've ever done, ever. Welcome to Follow Your Heartsong, where we reclaim pleasure, break taboos, and awaken to our deepest desire. I'm Rose Heartsong, bringing you raw, unapologetic conversations on sex, spirit, and self-liberation. Let's dive in. We're going to be going all over spirituality and what that means to me. The last couple of episodes have been introduction episodes because it's a new show. And today I'm going to go deeper into my relationship with spirituality because I talk a lot about spirituality and sexuality combined, which I'm realizing is actually not done very often out in the world, which I'm really grateful that I get the opportunity to do this and be here with you guys. So thank you for tuning in at KXFM, Laguna's Community Radio. It is the heart of Laguna Beach, and I'm really diving into the community of Laguna Beach more and really getting connected to people here. And this is such a beautiful town, beautiful community. So feel very blessed to be here with you all. So what is spirituality? What is it? When we think about spirituality, that is a huge, massive topic, right? It's very vast. And when you're thinking about spirituality, do you think about religion or do you think about something else? And I searched on the line and I found this response to that question. It's by Dr. Maya Spencer, and it was in a psychology paper. And Dr. Maya says, spirituality involves the recognition of a feeling or sense or belief that there is something greater than myself, something more to being human than sensory experience, and that the greater whole of which we are, part is cosmic and divine in nature. I really liked that. So I'm grateful to be able to share it with you. And in honor of spirituality, I wanted to check us into what's going on astrologically because I believe astrology and spirituality are friends in one way or another. And a lot of times when I get on the show, I'll be introducing what's happening because it's something that's one of my spiritual practices, which is to pay attention to what's going on cosmologically, because I found it helps me feel more grounded in my nervous system and understand what's going on with my emotions a lot. And Follow Your Heartsong is really, it's my intention and desire with this show is for it to be a permission slip for you to see something from a different perspective and to be doing action steps in your life that inspire you and activate your heart and are the essence of love and expansion and beauty, and that your nervous system feels calm and you don't feel shame. You feel confidence and power and play and expansion and creation so that we all together can create beauty in the world instead of destruction and chaos. So that's one of my deepest intentions for the show. If you haven't tuned in until now, that is it's my prayer, really. So what's going on astrologically? So right now we're in Aquarius. There's been a lot of birthdays around, so a lot of Aquarians going on. But we're actually going to transition into Pisces in 2 days on the 18th. We just had a full moon on the 12th. So we're a waning gibbous phase. So it's getting smaller, going towards the new moon. And one of the cool things is, I hope you all had a really beautiful Valentine's Day, by the way. And the really interesting thing about Valentine's Day is that Venus, which is the star that represents Valentine's Day, and they're correlated, actually reached its peak luminosity for the year on Valentine's Day, which I thought was really cool. And then also something, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but it's like once in, I don't know, 25,000 years, or I don't know. Don't quote me, but it's a once in a lifetime. This is the only time this is happening in our lifetime for certain, that there's a crazy planetary alignment happening between Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, which you can actually see in the evening sky. And on February 28th, Mercury's actually going to join the light up. So I think that's pretty cool. And for me, being in alignment, all these beautiful planets that have been aligning for us, and also the fact that we just stepped into the year of the snake, what's been feeling really alive out in my life and a lot of the people that I've been in conversation with is that the things that are out of alignment are disappearing or shedding, and like an old skin that's not working. And that everything that is in alignment is coming into place. And sometimes I've found when I'm in alignment, that can be scary because I feel like we are socially conditioned to be shameful and to be wrong, and that we're bad, and that we're sinners and we need to get it together. But what happens if we do have it together? And that's what I've been feeling, is the uncomfortable newness of alignment, and how beautiful it is and how alive it is, and also how uncomfortable I can feel as well to have everything that you desire. Because I feel like with the news and media, we're really programmed to focus on what it is that we do not want and what doesn't work for us. That sells. People focusing on what's wrong and bad. So what would actually happen if we started to feel good and started to thrive and started to feel whole and complete? And for everything that we have going on in our lives to be great, like what would happen then? What if we didn't focus on what was going wrong and put all of our energy into what was happening right? Tony Robbins, who's been a big teacher of mine, says where focus goes, energy flows. So my invitation is to focus on what's beautiful and what you can do about it, and what's good, and having a beautiful gratitude practice. Just a side note, but spirituality versus religion. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. I'm about to go into my deep story, like a deep dive story of my relationship with religion, which has been pretty vast, actually, for the short 35 years I've been on this planet. I've dove pretty deep into quite a variety of different religions. And so I do have some practical, tangible, devotional experience in that realm. I'm by no means an expert of anything. I am forever a student. And I'm also forever a student of the sacred. And so what I've found to be true for me, and this may or may not be right for you or in alignment for you, and that's okay, is that a lot of times religion has a lot of shame interwoven into it. And a lot of the time I would go to church as a child and hear what the words that Jesus was talking about loving your neighbor. And then I would see a lot of judgment and talking behind somebody's back, or being disrespectful to people, or caring about what kind of car they have or what kind of clothing they're wearing, instead of like deeply caring about them as a human being. And I believe that as a sex, love, and intimacy coach, the biggest wound that I work through with people on a regular daily basis is shame associated with religious programming. And the shame feels heavy and dense, and it creates a lot of anxiety and fear, and it creates a lot of depression and frustration and hurt and sadness. And in my paradigm, and what I believe to be true, what it feels in alignment for me, is that is not benevolent. That is not coming from the creator or divine or God or the universe or whatever you choose to label. And I made a post the other day. I called him Sky Daddy. So there's all sorts of names that we can call the divine. And I just feel like anything that justifies violence, suppression, or cruelty and religion it doesn't feel benevolent. It feels maleficent and it feels evil, really deeply evil to me. And I really want us to remember the core essence of what all the great teachers in the world talk about. And it truly is love. And that, I think, power of love being the most potent. It's like really powerful to be in the vibration of love and to be brave enough to be that, right? A lot of us, I think, aren't brave enough to be in the vibration of love. It's a lot easier to be in shame and judgment and fear and ego. So I really want to question us, really ask us to question ourselves of what are we using to justify being destructive to another person or disrespectful of in any way that makes them feel shame or judgment or fear. And it's not, I'm not asking you to judge yourself in that, but it's just getting curious, right? Getting questioning, being aware. Am I coming from love right now? Let me get a drink of water. I invite us to let go of any programming that doesn't come from love, from judging another person because you don't understand their perspective of the world, or blaming somebody for something when maybe their intentions are pure, or just getting curious, right? Sometimes I think love is being curious and understanding that we don't know everything at all, not even close. So, what is something happening in your personal life right now that you want to let go of, that maybe you have from societal programming, from religious programming, that just doesn't feel in resonance or good in your body? I call, I mean, our nervous system, I use the word nervous system a lot because it is our hardware and our computer system that processes everything. And we are living in a very depressed and anxious world right now. It's the highest it's ever been ever in our history right now. The average teenager has the same amount of anxiety as somebody in a mental hospital did in the 1950s. Anxiety and depression have become extremely normalized and socially accepted. And I think that one of the reasons for that is we have so much technology in our nervous system. Our hardware is crashing in our bodies, and we aren't, our processing speed and our nervous system and our communication pathways is not up to date to what it is that we're giving it and the information we're giving it. Even just listening to me right now, you are getting information. And as I sit here, I see cars driving by, there's lights and information all around me putting into my nervous system. And so we have fried nervous systems and we're not taking care of them socially as much as we can. And the reason I'm talking about this right now is my spiritual practice, and potentially your spiritual practice, is a really beautiful gift for your nervous system to let go of anxiety and depression and to settle. And so my invitation is, what are you letting go? What do you get to let go, or what belief that isn't serving you that you're willing to shed so you can be more in alignment? Valentine's Day just happened. It's been really sweet. This Valentine's Day came with a lot of vibrancy and beauty and love and self-love. I just was feeling it in the air thick. And Venus, we talked about Venus, is the Roman goddess of love, and they symbolize beauty, desire, and affection. And Valentine's Day, celebrated the other day, aligns with the themes of love and romance. And again, Venus reached its greatest brightness on Valentine's Day, which was that's just beautiful. I love that. I'm going to segue a little bit because I have a deep spiritual devotional practice to Mary Magdalene, and I'll be talking a lot about her on the show and in my life. I'm very devoted to her. And she's also associated with Venus. She kind of embodies that divine feminine love and devotion and womanhood, self-worth, all sorts of like relational dynamics and beauty and the divine love. And of course, both. So the interesting fact, this is something that's so cool. Have, you have to Google this either now or when you're done with the show. But the path of Venus, the way that it goes in the sky, I believe it's a 9-year path, 7 or 9 years, I believe. It takes, or 8. I don't remember this one, but it takes a lot of years to do the full path, but it's the only planet in the sky that looks like a rose. The path actually looks like a 5-petaled rose. It's so beautiful. They've created ways of seeing it online. It's a beautiful piece of artwork. It's actually gorgeous. And Mary Magdalene also has a deep association to the rose, which we will go into later on another episode. We're not diving deep in that today. But as I said, I was going to tell you my story because these are still introduction episodes. I'm introducing myself. My name's Rose Heartsong. Lovely to meet you. And you're listening to KXFM, Laguna's community radio. And this is Follow Your Heartsong. And it's all about giving you a permission slip to try things that you might not consider trying, or doing things outside of your comfort zone that light you up and inspire you and activate your creativity and your beauty, and so that you're giving back to the world. Your cup is filled up. Anyways, so one of my first memories that had to do with anything spiritual was my mother burning in the wood stove her astrology books. My mom was a beautiful astrologer, very dedicated to astrology when I was a young child. And then she found Jesus. And I remember specifically saying to her that I was like, are you sure you want to do that? Are you certain that you want to burn those books? And she did anyways. Sorry, there is a funny noise coming from somewhere. Anyways, she burned those books and she found Jesus. And I was baptized at 5 years old in Northern California in this massive church in front of thousands of people. And I remember it was a big moment. I was outside and I was scared. I was overwhelmed, but I was also excited. And I could feel that it was like a big initiation. And my mom found Jesus in this. My mom was a single mom, and I lived in a van with her, going to hippie festivals and traveling all over the Pacific Northwest growing up. And I remember she discovered Jesus in this all black church. We were the only white people, and the women would come in the most elaborately beautiful hats and outfits and heels. And then they would have the Holy Spirit take over them, and they would start speaking in tongues, and they would fall over. And I'd be taken by the Holy Spirit. And I remember being so scared, petrified as a child, that these grown women were making all these noises and then passing out. And I was so worried about them. And I also remember I had an American Girl doll, which those are still around. I saw a little girl with an girl doll the other night, and I was so happy to see it. I had my little American Girl doll, and I remember the pastor came up and asked me my name, and I was so scared because everyone was paying attention to me. And then he asked me what my doll's name was, and I thought that was really cute. So some funny memories from childhood. But I was really into Jesus. Like, Jesus was my homeboy. Like, I would go to church every Sunday, every Wednesday. We were buddies. We were homeboys. I would like dance and get so into the music. And like, my heart was so open to Jesus. Like, I was so all in, 100%. I was so grateful to be Christian. Like, I even read the Bible when I was really young. I think like 10 or 11. I was homeschooled and I was obsessed with reading. I would just read and read. And I read the Bible, I want to say it was like 12, twice, back to back. It's crazy to think about that now because I haven't read the full Bible since then. I felt very safe and very held in church. And I have absolutely, honestly, zero negative concepts about church. I do remember the only thing that was really confusing is I would truly listen to what the pastor was saying. And then I saw all the church members being mean to each other and judging each other and criticizing each other and talking behind each other's backs about what it was that they're not doing that's in alignment with God. And I was so confused. I was like, wait, aren't we like learning not to do that here? And I also got curious because I realized there wasn't a lot of talk about women. I remember the one story that really impacted me was Esther, because she was a woman. She was in the Bible and she was a woman and she was a powerful woman and she made impact. And I remember not very many impactful women in the Bible and feeling sad as a child that there wasn't any stories that resonated with me. And then my mom got the internet, and I forgot to tell you, my mom was born Jewish and she was not supposed to be Christian. This was a no for her family. She was being a very bad Jew. And when I was 12, 13, I think, 13, I believe, my mom got the internet. Remember the dial-up noise? You're going to remember right when I say it. Anyways, she started doing research, and I think this is where I got my research skills from. I'm very grateful for that. She started questioning, and that's really what I want you to do, is to start questioning. Is this true? Is this real? Or is this something I was just told? Does this resonate with me? Does this feel good for me? And what she found out, which I've been finding out and I will continue to share here, is that there is a lot of pagan traditions interwoven into Christian religion. And there's a lot of specific reasons for that. It's very intentional. It didn't happen by chance. And so she freaked out. She was like, we can't be Christian anymore. We're going to be Jewish. So then she decided she'd move me to a town with a Jewish community that was thriving, that I could be part of. And we actually moved towns to go be in a town where there was a Jewish community. And I was forced to go to, this is going to be a little radical because of the times, but I'm just being honest. I was required by my mother to be part of a Zionist youth group. And I took Hebrew classes starting in junior year of high school. I actually got credit for those Hebrew classes. It took 2 years, my junior and senior year. And when I was 17, I actually traveled to Israel for the summer, had the best time of my life. It was like the most magical summer of my whole existence. And I was really committed to coming back. After I graduated, I went back to Israel and I dove deep into study. I studied Hebrew, I studied the history of Israel, I studied a lot of the religious text, and I really got devoted to Judaism. I was really committed to learning and growing and keeping the rituals that are very active in Judaism. I wouldn't date anybody who wasn't Jewish, and I kept kosher, and I went to synagogue every week, and I dove very deep into Judaism, and I loved it. I felt at home. I felt like anytime I went and had a meal on Shabbat dinner, I was at home. And then I started to notice that it didn't feel good anymore. And I started to see incongruencies and things that were said in the Bible that were toxic, actually, and that didn't feel in alignment, and certain controls and the micromanagement of everything. I remember I went to a religious dinner, I think it was like Rosh Hashanah, which is Jewish New Year. And you're not supposed to work on that day. And I remember my girlfriend, who was like really religious, wouldn't pick up a dog because she might break the hair on the dog just from picking it up. And that's considered work. So she wasn't allowed to pick up a dog. And I was like, what are we doing? Why aren't we like, and she was judging me because at the time, actually, even though I was still Jewish, I was dating an Arab. And so I got judged for that. And I fell in love with somebody that was not Jewish, and I got judged for that. And there was all this judgment and shame coming up. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel in alignment. So I prayed about it. I always go back to prayer. And somehow I decided to move out to Kauai, Hawaii to go to massage school when I was 21 years old. And I I bought a one-way ticket, and I gave away everything I owned, sold everything I owned, got rid of my car, moved to Hawaii, got a hotel room for a night and a rental car for a week. And I somehow, the next morning, I ended up in a Native American sweat lodge, and go backwards to my childhood. Though I was Christian, and though I went to church, I also grew up in a hippie community a lot around hippies. So a sweat lodge wasn't something new to me. I'd actually been in a sweat lodge a lot, especially before my mom found Jesus when she was into astrology. But it was like more hippie sweat lodge, not so much Native American church. And for those of you who do not know, the Native American church it does offer peyote and just peyote ceremonies. And they went all the way to the Supreme Court to fight for the legality rights to be able to have a peyote church ceremony in honor of God. And they won. So it is put out there legally, and Native Americans do pray in this way. It's a very specific way. And me talking about this, I really want to clarify that it's important to respect the Native American way and only do it when you're invited in, and to really respect that culture, because that's the earth and the ground we're in now in America. The United States of America was the Native Americans before us. And so my intention in sharing this is to be respectful to them and kind to them. And so I won't go into a lot of detail of what that looks like, but I will say that I ended up in Sweat Lodge and praying to God, and Jesus came back into my life, because the Native American church does have a history of the missionaries coming and influencing their prayer. And so Jesus is prayed to in the Native American church. It is a church. And it freaked me out. I got super scared. My first ceremony with peyote, I freaked out and I left because they were praying to Jesus, and I was Jewish and I couldn't be there. And then I caught myself doing exactly what I felt was out of alignment. I caught myself judging. And judgment is such a funny, sneaky little thing, isn't it? So I went back, and while I was living in Kauai, my mom got sick with breast cancer. And the only place I had to go to heal and to grieve was the sweat lodge and the teepee and the church, uh, praying with this really sacred medicine. To this day, now, in this now moment, I will say that the closest I've ever become to God besides sex, actually, sex has been a huge avenue for my spiritual growth, is the sweat lodge and the teepee and this church. And I think it's a beautiful devotion. They pray to the water, they pray to the earth, they pray to the elements, they pray in gratitude. I feel like the Native American church really taught me how to pray with gratitude, because I think before, when I was in church, I wasn't taught properly how to pray with gratitude. It was more like, and maybe I learned this from my mom, and that's just her culture, how she was, but there was always this need, like, Jesus, please save me. Jesus, come and wash away my sins. Help me, support me, do this for me, do that for me. And what I really loved about the Native American church, there was this honor. It was a beautiful honor of gratitude. Like, thank you for the food I'm eating. Thank you for the water, the clean, nourishing water I get to drink. Thank you for my home. Thank you for my bed. Thank you for the simplicities of my life that I'm super grateful for. And so I was really grateful for that. And then I hung out in the Native American church. I was so dedicated. I was doing peyote church ceremonies like multiple times a month, going to sweat lodge mornings a week at sunrise. Like I was in because I was grieving and I was going through a healing process with my mom. And then again, the judgment started and the talking about what was wrong. And I started to see the critiques of the elders and judging the way that we were praying and the way that certain people were singing songs. And it didn't feel good to me. And the people in the community that were telling me to be a certain way, actually, I ended up dating a guy who was really involved with the church, and he was always telling me to make sure to be a good person and to watch my back and to make sure that I was being ethical and kind and respectful. And then he ended up cheating on me. And I was like, oh, really? Really? You're going to cheat on me after telling me all that? And I left the Native American church and I decided to travel to Asia, and I was in Thailand. And all of a sudden, I got called to study yoga. I got very committed to yoga and the philosophy of yoga, the spiritual practice of yoga, the eating habits of yoga, the kriyas, the namas, and the niyamas, and all of the paths of yoga. And I went to India and I started to deeply devote to yoga. And then I also, around that same time, also in between the time of the peyote church and the yoga, while I was living in Hawaii, I got introduced to ayahuasca, which was not my medicine at the time. I was so not into it. I got socially pressured to go. So my thing is, if you're ever going to try any sort of plant medicine ceremonies, only go if you're called. Only go. Never go out of societal pressure. It's so popular, especially in California. And a lot of people do it. And there's a lot of it available. And you have to be really careful who you sit with, who serves you, where it's coming from, and what the energy is, and making sure that you feel called. Really sure you feel called, because I didn't. I did it out of social pressure. And it really messed me up for a while, like months and months. So I got introduced to Vipassana, which is a 10-day silent meditation retreat as well. I was grieving, right? My mom was dying from breast cancer. It was heartbreaking. I was so young, and I feel so blessed that instead of going to drugs or alcohol, I went to devotional study and personal growth and spirituality, because it really gave me such a beautiful outlook on life and so much freedom in myself. So I did a Vipassana. The first time actually I did Vipassana was before. Oh, I'm going out of order. Sorry, guys. Before I went to Hawaii, before I got in the peyote church, I went to a Vipassana when I was 20. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done, still to this day. One of the hardest things I've ever done, ever. Just to sit in silence with yourself for 10 days straight and not talk to anyone. Don't look at anyone. Don't write anything down, listen to anything besides the learning about the meditation with Goenkaji. I did Dihama.org, I think. It's a nonprofit organization that offers free meditation for you, actually, which is amazing. You get to go there for free anywhere in the world and meditate for 10 days, and somebody else paid for it. It's a really beautiful offering, and it's really hard. And I remember the first Vipassana. I've done 3. Crazy that I've been silent for 30 days in my life. I talk so much. I I had always the concept in science that we've learned and we study and we understand when we're in high school or whatever, that we're actually like matter doesn't exist and we're all energy and cells are just like swirling energy. I remember it's 10 days. I think it was like the 7th day of Vipassana. My body just turned into like this glowing light, and there was no body and I was just energy. It was just like an hour. I was just pure bliss. And I think sex is the only other time I've gotten that close to that feeling without any psychedelics or any other like substances to get me there. But I was weightless and timeless and skinless and just a ball of energy. And after I got out of the Vipassana, I felt just like shooting energy rays of light on my fingertips and just so much love. It was so beautiful to learn to love myself in that way. Anyways, fast forward. I'm in India and Thailand, and I'm studying. In the first episode I talked about, I studied Tantra and got exploring sacred sexuality and yoga and spiritual consciousness and learned some crazy things in my body. And I was like, this is wild. Yes, I want to go more into this. And Tantra is really beautiful because it brings the sacred into sexuality and the spiritual back into the sacredness of sex. And I absolutely love that about it. And I took a lot of, also during the time that I was grieving with my mom, I took a lot of mushrooms, probably done mushrooms like 400 times in my life, a lot of times. Because I have this solid foundation of going to peyote church and being in ritual and having a sacred devotional practice with these plants. Personally, I've never had a bad experience because I've always taken them in an environment and a prayer and intention. And it really helped me heal. And I'm so grateful now. This was in 2011, 2012, 2013. I'm so grateful now that we're doing a lot of studies with psychedelics and psilocybin and the healing benefits of it, because I never had to take any pharmaceutical, chemical antidepressants. I just would take some mushrooms and go for a walk in nature and cry and just let myself grieve. And I feel like taking mushrooms and going for a walk in nature is another magical way to connect with the divine and God and creator and really surrender into the beauty of spirit. It's been a huge lesson for me and healing modality. And integrating that into this practice of prayer is so powerful. I think it's one of the most beautiful, vibrational, energetic, rich things that we can do. And my invitation is, maybe the next time you pray, instead of asking for what you need, just get on your knees and express gratitude for what it is that you have and see how that feels in your body. And then after I come back from my travels, I really got really passionate about Tony Robbins and I went down his world. I've been to 17 Tony Robbins events live. And that became my religion for a while. It's so funny because he has a documentary called I'm Not Your Guru. But I really started to focus and reprogram my nervous system and my brain to focus on what was right instead of what was wrong. And really dedicating myself to what was possible and what I could do and how much of a contribution I could make in the world. And how could I be a cheerleader to those around me and those that I love and to myself, and to rewire programs of not enoughness. I had a huge abandonment wound because I lost my mom when I was 23. And my dad left when I was 2, so a massive abandonment wound that still flares up, not perfect. And all of this questioning and curiosity and these different religious studies I was going into and this form of spirituality and getting curious and trying new things. Like, my desire for you is try something new. If you're not happy, if you're not fulfilled, something's not right for you, try something different. Try something new. Anyways, after my deep devotion to Tony Robbins, again, same pattern, right? This is the pattern that keeps showing up in my life. In the past, it's not true today. And I got burned again in the Tony Robbins community. And I saw behind the magical curtain, I saw the judgment. I saw the shame, and I saw all this flashy, what do I own and what do you have and how big good is my business and how many billions of dollars am I making and how much millions of dollars am I making. And it's like this almost competition to make the world a better place with money. And it didn't feel in alignment for me as within the community, not within Tony Robbins himself, but that's just the culture and community that was created around his community, which Tony Robbins changed my life. To this day, I'm in deep devotion to what he teaches. He's one of the most spiritual teachers I've actually ever seen in person, and he's a magical person. And I saw again, same thing happened in Christianity and Judaism, Paley Church, in authenticity. And something about me is just deeply devoted to authenticity and being true and being in devotion to love and the divine and through spirituality and to growing and everything. And so I moved to Northern California and somehow got into these new moon rituals and ceremonies with one of my teachers. Her name's Isis Indria. She has the Academy of Oracle Arts. She was doing these new moon circles, which if you're listening to this right now, I would love to host a new moon circle in Laguna Beach. So if you know of any venues or any spaces I could do that, please reach out to me on Instagram at Rose Heartsong. It's RoseHeartsong on Instagram. I would love to offer that for the community. It was a huge transformational journey for me. So I started learning about new moon circles, the art of devotion, deeper into prayer. And then after that, I moved on to Baja and COVID happened. And during COVID, I got really deep into my own personal devotional practice. I created an altar and I started having rituals of self-love. I would go deep into self-pleasure rituals and self-love rituals. And I used a crystal dildo to really heal and alchemize trauma in my nervous system and to really connect with, not for the purpose of getting off or turn on, but it was this really deep devotional practice to myself, to self-love and to self-devotion and to feeling safe in my body because the world was going crazy. I was living by myself in Mexico in a different country, and I had all this time in the world to devote to myself. And I teach that a lot in my coaching. I teach women and men how to be, in devotion to their own divine vessel, this incredible body that we're gifted by the divine, by God, by Creator. We got this. This is the body you got. And spending your whole life hating it is going to be a lot more miserable than spending your whole life in devotion to it. And it breaks my heart when I see beautiful women, absolutely gorgeous women, just beating themselves up all the time because we live in a society with millions and billions of dollars of marketing telling us we're not good enough, we're not skinny enough, we're not pretty enough, we're not enough, we're not enough, we're not enough. We need to buy this thing to make us beautiful. And I was really radical and I went against the grain. And I'm a radical person, really. Like I talk about some taboo things on here out into the world. And I was in devotion to my own divinity. And I started to understand the words of Jesus in a different perspective. And then also when I was in Nevada City and going to the new moon rituals and so forth, before I went to Baja and had this experience going back again, I read this book called Rise, Sister Rise by Rebecca Campbell. And I was in this coaching program and this girl recommended it. And something was activated inside of me. This cellular memory of my DNA. I don't know if that makes any sense. Basically, I read this book and my whole body turned into an electric channel and just lit up like a Christmas tree. And I was like, what is happening? What's going on right now? And what was happening is a cellular memory this is what is true for me. You guys might think I'm totally crazy saying this, but whatever, you probably think I'm crazy anyways. And I'm okay with that. I was remembering things from my past life. And so I decided to get on an Akashic Records call. And I had a memory in which it wasn't even a memory. I was on this Akashic Records call. It was a phone call. I was talking on the phone. She starts going into the Akashic Records, which is a memory bank of all of our lifetimes in the cosmos that people are taught how to read. And I left my body and I was in this body. I had red hair. I was wearing a green cape and I was walking down a spiral staircase into the basement of a castle. And I had a torch in my hand. I could feel the heat of the torch on my skin. I could feel the drops of water coming down and the side of the walls are really cold and stone. And I knew that I was going to a really important meeting and that if I got caught, I would be killed. And then I went back into my body here. And it was like, whoa. And what I realized through that experience and through Rise Sister Rise is that I was in devotion to Mary Magdalene and to bringing her message into the world, which is something I'm doing still. So fast forward into Baja, I started to hold Mary Magdalene Book Club meetings because I'm dedicated to making a docuseries about Mary Magdalene in devotion to her and her memory and her legacy and reclaiming the feminine Christ. And I was reading all these books and I couldn't remember anything. I wasn't registering it. It was going in one eye out my brain. And so I started this book club, which kind of started to turn into a priestess coven ritual experience. And I had this man gift me a cauldron that he had found 6 feet under the ground full of crystals. I still to this day don't know how old it is, don't know where it came from, but it's a beautiful cauldron. And when I was in the new moon circles, I had started to learn to pray with sage and cedar and lavender and copal and all these beautiful herbs to help clear the energy in my body. And what I found to be true is that when I was in these self-love ceremonies and when I was holding these ceremonies about Mary Magdalene and I was burning these herbs, it made my spirit come alive. And I felt vibrant and clean and clear and grounded and safe in my body. And the whole world was going crazy with COVID and the whole world was shutting down and everyone thought it was going to be the end and everyone was so fearful. And I felt so safe in my own body because of this prayer practice that I had. I felt so clear that I was okay and that I was taken care of by the divine and that I was going to be okay. And I had no fear come up. And it was from this practice. And having a spiritual prayer practice, whatever it looks like to you, whether it's Christian, Jewish, I don't care. I'm just telling my story. Like having that practice and remembering to have a devotional, intentional experience with the divine, especially with sex, because we forget to do that. As spiritual beings, forget to do that when we have a spiritual practice. It's more beautiful. Life is more beautiful. Your nervous system is more grounded. There's a lot more calm, more magic happens, more beauty happens, more manifestation happens. So my invitation is to remind you to pray for your gratitude, prayers of gratitude. And then I decided to go to Glastonbury, England. I got pulled there. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to have to speed up a little bit. And I got pulled to Glastonbury, England, in which I had an initiation with the water in the White Spring in Glastonbury, England, and the water, it touched me and I started vibrating. My whole body started vibrating and activating and all these codes from the water started going into me and I started following them and all this magic started opening up in Hollywood and producers supporting me and believing in me. And I have a dear sister of mine, Roxanne Ruby. We are co-producing this Magdalene film project together. And I moved back to California and then I read an amazing book that changed everything too. I've never cried so much in my life than I have from this book besides when my mom passed away. And it's called Rituals in Sacred Stone by Venke Braven. And she will be on the show in April. She's a gem of a human being. That book turned me on. Not talking about sexually, but yeah, it is really. It's Outlander meets the Bible meets Lord of the Rings. That's what I always say. And I don't know anybody that doesn't masturbate to the books. It's a good one, especially women. But it's spicy, it's fun, it's a love story about Christ and Mary Magdalene, and it really resonated with me. I was like, this is real. This is real. This feels real. So I got super curious and started continuing my devotion to Mary Magdalene and getting curious and reading books and learning about documentaries and learning history, and so many different worlds got opened up to me. And then I decided to dedicate to the sacred study of alchemy and oracle arts and a priestess path. And so for the last year, I've been in the Academy of Oracle Arts where I've been studying the sacred. I've been studying Kabbalah, which is mind-blowingly epic. I'm actually studying Hebrew again, but from a spiritual perspective, not a communicative perspective. I'm studying the science of tarot, or the history of tarot, and the science of tarot, and the science of astrology. And the more I study and the more I learn, the less I know nothing. I am forever a student of the sacred. And I know that when I get up and I devote myself just a few minutes a day, to prayer, to breath, to presence, to silence, to connection in simple little aspects that I feel better and my nervous system feels better. I'm happier. I'm more fulfilled. And the more I love myself. And I want to acknowledge you for being here on this journey with me. I also want to acknowledge the homelands of where we are right now and say a simple prayer in closing. Laguna Beach, California is actually the originally the tongue of the people, and the Achaman people and the Gabrielina people, and they called it Laguna, and it was the lagoon. And I just want to thank you for being here tonight. I'm grateful for all the blessings of my life, and thank you for this opportunity to share my story and this questioning with Laguna Beach and the world. And I'm really grateful for you for being here, for being open to hearing this. And my prayer is that your life is better because of this podcast, and that you feel more alive and have more of a permission slip. And that my prayer is your life is beautiful and magical, and you have love, and you have epic orgasmic bliss, and you have beauty and stability and safety, and that your nervous system feels good. And I want to acknowledge all of the directions for the East, for its new beginnings, its illumination, inspiration, and calling on the East and the Eagle, which was our vision and clarity, and the South, which is growth, passion, expansion, represents Coyote, which is playfulness and adaptivity, and the West, which is calling in the West, introspection, endings and transformation. The animal is the bear, and the North, which is wisdom, stability, the buffalo, that wisdom energy. And my prayer for you is to let go of fear, to let go of suffering, to heal, to fully be embodied in the healing, and to be in the unknowing, and surrender to the divine, and surrender to prayer, and be okay to be in the mystery and the void and the space of unknowing sometimes, and to be still and to get off your phone and to be present and listen. And you don't need all of the answers right now. You just gotta open your heart and follow your heart song, and just be willing to be in love. And after all this and all the stories that I went to and everything, my reminder is, I'll leave it with you. Human beings want more than anything in the world to be right. It's our egos talking. And the antidote to that is love. And if you are in a conflict with anyone right now in your life, I want to remind you that actually being right doesn't win. That the person that returns to love first is the person who actually wins. Because if you're right, you're making the other person wrong. And if you care about them, would you want them to be wrong? Oh, thank you for being here. And just remember that a really beautiful practice also, if you want to have a really simple practice you can have every day, every morning, is when you drink your first glass of water, just say a prayer of gratitude to the water and see how it feels in your body. That's been one of my sweetest blessings. Next week, we're going to be talking about health, holistic health, and I'll share my perspective on that too. As I said, this is an introduction to the show, these episodes. Really grateful you're here. Also, I'm going to be starting my newsletter. So if you want to get some spicy content that I can't share on the air, on podcasts, or on social media, go over to roseheartsong.com and join the email list. I'm also going to be giving away a couple of free podcasts that you can only get if you give me your email soon. So they're going to be more spicy than what I can put on Laguna's community radio, which I'm really grateful that they're open to me talking about sexuality, spirituality, and holistic health. Have a beautiful night. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you next week.
You felt that, didn't you? Let it sink in, take what you need, leave the rest, and always trust yourself. If this spoke to you, please follow, like, and share. That helps the message reach those who need it. Stay wild, stay free, and keep following your heart song.